welcome to the newest episode of The Black Feather, an Ospreys rugby fancast for the fans, by the fans. Evening, lads. Can you believe we are on episode? I believe it is 30.
33?
33, isn't it?
No, 34.
Oh,
Is it? Oh, I missed last week, didn't I? That's why I'm
Oh,
So we're
yeah.
doing grown up
remembering.
things, babes.
Does that one not
Oh,
count, Rod, because you weren't in it?
No, no, no. That one's lost now. I've deleted it from my back catalogue.
it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
Nobody can watch that episode now. Um, but we are on episode 34. And I think it's safe to say our playoff chances now are in the toilet.
Yeah.
So the reality is we've got 1 week to go, but we have discussed offline doing some stuff over the summer around the Lions, having one-to-one chats with people about how they got into rugby and became Ospreys fans. So don't worry, guys, there will be a little something over the summer.
We're not
You're
going
not going to get rid of us that quickly.
No.
But yeah, episode 34.
If we want to extend our chances in the competition, we've got a week to send round a kitty or a collections pot to raise 10 million to buy out Cardiff, merge them with the Ospreys under the Ospreys name and banner, and take their sort of position in the table. Maybe we can do that, and we can restore.
I literally just go down the back of my sofa now, Rod, get an easy fight bill right for there. Not a problem.
Stood
What
outside.
planet do you want?
Stand outside Macron in Neath, shaking a bucket. I'm
Look
sure
at.
you'll get quick 10 mil.
Can you imagine? But that could be a plan. You know, it might take longer than a week. Yeah, it'll definitely take longer than a week.
Well, if you collect
Some holidays are coming, mate. People need their cash. But yeah,
it's got that feeling, isn't it? Everything's sort of come to an end. I know we've got one game left, and
I know.
to some degree, it's going to be nice to watch that without the pressure. But I also sort of like lose interest when there's nothing to play for. Maybe I'm not as flawless a fan as I thought I was, but when there's nothing riding on it, it's not as engaging.
It's strange because we've kind of clung on to that hope of that last playoff place for the last month, really, haven't we? It's kind of just been dangling there. It's been unlikely, but we might just make it,
We believed.
And then the hope is gone now, isn't it? So like you said, Rod, it's kind of, this weekend. Not that I don't care what happens in any of the other results, but it's not going to have quite the same excitement for us, is it? Because
I guess we're playing for pride now, aren't we? We're playing to just end this little mini losing streak that we've had, and wind out the season
for pride against the Lions.
Yeah, I know. I saw the joke in there. I couldn't knit it together into something seamless. But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So it's been a nice season, lads.
It has.
Had lots of highs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the highlight of the season so far for me has been our Callum Sheedy reel on TikTok, on Insta. And our 50,000 views. So we need to do more of that next year. But we'll have a planning meeting over the summer now. But let's rip that plaster off and let's talk about Ospreys Sharks on Friday. Bit of an early kickoff, 6 o'clock. So I kind of finished work, started watching, and to be fair, there were some glimmers of things that we did well. We knew it was going to be a tough ask against that team, those players, at altitude. And I think it could have been a far worse scoreline than it was. But I think our scoreline could have been better than it was because we had multiple opportunities that we just did not capitalize on, and it was silly things.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. That first half was so frustrating, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So many opportunities went missing, and I think Mark highlighted that in his post-match interview. We had ample opportunity to do damage early on in the game and sort of set the tone, leave them chasing, but instead we were doing all the chasing. Hardy's disallowed try looked like it might have been that thing that unlocked the door and unleashed a few more tries. But because
Yeah,
it was disallowed and it went the other way, it felt like it just stifled any momentum that we had, and we didn't have a lot of it in that game.
No.
That try getting chalked off felt like a bit of a metaphor for the rest of the game, really, where everything was just, not quite there, not quite clicking.
yeah,
I feel like a broken record at the moment because I say every episode that sort of final 5% feels like we're doing most of the work, but just not capitalizing.
Yeah.
yeah. Like
I have to
some of it
admit,
was
sorry, go on, Sam.
some of it was lovely, and I do think
Yeah.
that Hardy try was a 50-50 decision, and it just didn't go in our favour for whatever reason. Um, and you could see that was kind of wind out of sails moment. There were some lovely moments where passes to Cassende, if they'd have come off, he'd have been away. Likewise with several other players. I thought Jack was outstanding
Yeah.
as always.
And
But
duly shouted out by Khaleesi as well.
yeah, Police
Well,
Day.
yeah.
And I love that because he's had quite a bit of stick online, Jack has, from certain fans of certain countries about, why is he being picked, blah, 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 blah. You need to watch more Welsh rugby to see exactly why he's been picked. Because we watch it week in, week out, and you could say that because we're Ospreys fans, we're biased. It's not just us. And I love the fact that Khaleesi said that he was well deserving of the spot. He is an absolute warrior in how he plays, a gentleman in how he behaves. And to have someone like Sio Khaleesi saying that about you, lets the noise go, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's your take on Friday, Mark?
Yeah, I was going to have to admit I was on delay watching it because I didn't get back from working time, so I was about half an hour behind starting the game, and it was on delay, but increasingly on fast forward as the game went on as well, because you could just feel the game slipping away in that second half, and they got those tries that sort of killed it really quite early second half, and then that was
Yeah.
that was it really, and so I have to admit a lot of the second half I did just watch in double time because we never really looked like getting back into the game, and it's a shame really to go with a little bit of a whimper, I suppose, in that second half. That we were so competitive in the first half, could easily have scored a few more tries maybe in that half as well, and been right in with a chance of winning the game, and then it just sort of petered away, didn't it, a bit, and they look tired again. And we've said that a lot in the last month or so, and I think that shows maybe the lack of depth that we've got in the squad. And again, that maybe, as much as Mark Jones talks about the 23 and the wider squad, in certain positions, certain players have been
Yeah.
hammered for the last six to 8 weeks. They've played pretty much every minute of every game. And I
Yeah.
think that shows the lack of depth we've got in certain areas, thinking about centre, full back, well, back three as a whole, really. Those players have played every minute of every game pretty much for the last 2 months. And,
Yeah.
you can't sustain at that level for so long playing every.
The solid 12
And
months playing for Cassende and Bosch coming
yeah.
off the back of the Curry
And
Cup.
And
I
they've been
think they
outstanding.
identified that, didn't they? Because they played a tactical blinder. Their kicking game was really good. They played in the right areas of the pitch and just put a lot of pressure on that knackered back three who've, like you said, played umpteen games on the trot now. Yeah, Giles had a bit of a tricky day, didn't he? Getting put under all those high balls with multiple 6'5" plus giants looming over him. He didn't have much chance, did he? It was a bit
Bit
difficult.
fierce in tackling though, wasn't he? I think there was
Yeah, oh
one
God,
hit that
yeah.
he put on Etzbeth, I think.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, there's a foot and a half height difference there, mate. And he just went for it. I was like, oh, yes, you little Jack Russell Terrier, you.
I think it's the Sharks are a quality team as well. I know they're not impressing in how they're playing, particularly at the moment, but they're a team of proven winners,
The
Springboks and
Galacticos.
internationals from 1 to 15. And, they're going to be thereabouts in the mix for the title at the end of the season. I know they're not the most glamorous of teams, but they know how to win and they know how to grind out results. And that's what they did to us Friday.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're physical 1 to 23, aren't they?
Yeah.
Etzebeth goes off, bring in Etzebeth Mark II, enters the game. And that was the case for, everybody on the bench, really, wasn't it? They were at least the man that they were replacing, if not more, in size
They'd
and
make
bulk.
they'd make the Welsh first team, wouldn't they? Their bench, like let's not lie.
Yeah.
And the other thing and I always think, like, we know I'm a Rando anyway, and don't worry, the Randos will be continuing next year as well. I was thinking, like, know how tall Exmouth is. I don't know if either of you two have been on crutches ever. They do go up a fair way, but they don't go up like that lot. Do you reckon they got special crutches for them who are like over 6'5" and whatever?
Extenders.
They must be like double crutches.
Because
or something. They must have one on top of the other, or like a snooker rest, like a extension of the snooker, whatever.
So that's what I was thinking in my head.
Yeah.
I know when they bought like the cart and stuff out, and they like put them on the stretchers and they put them in the cart. I'm like, how are they getting on in there? Because the weight ratio and the height ratio means they're proper hanging off. Just like, how do they? But this is what goes in my head. Yeah, like when these things happen. But you're right, they look tired.
Mm-hmm.
The Sharks did their homework. They knew what they were doing. And I just think season end to end, and I know we're not quite there yet. We've got one more game to go. You're right, Rod, that Dragons win and a couple of the near misses that we've had, especially when Leinster were there for the taking, that's coming home to roost now. It is. Yeah. We could be in a very different position. But if I'm thinking ahead, I do think we're building something really lovely for next season.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Our disappointment with how the season ended is just a reflection of how high our hopes have gone since, observing the change
Christmas.
Since Mark has come in. Since Christmas, essentially. We just need an extended period now under Mark's coaching regime with more time on the training field, don't we? More, a proper full pre-season. It's actually quite exciting. Our expectations have just been raised. So it was a bit of a flat ending to the season, wasn't it? After the peaks that we saw in the middle, beating Glasgow, pushing Leinster to within, 3 points, I think it was.
Yeah.
We've had some really, really good performances. It's just a shame I was petered out at the end. But there were good things in that game, weren't there? I think our defence was really good for big periods. We made the Sharks work for their tries. The scoreline obviously suggests quite a tough outing, but there were periods where we held firm against sustained sort of pressure from the Sharks, and we can be proud of that.
We held it. We did hold up our own for a large chunk of that game. It just didn't go away. But we still love them. We're still looking forward to the Lions this weekend. And I know there's a lot of talk around squads and everything else. And I know we'd normally discuss this after the URC roundup, but it kind of makes sense to kind of pop it in here. Yeah. Jack obviously being selected for the Lions. For me, that is a big, big thing for him. I just think I wouldn't play him, if I'm being honest.
No, oh, God, yeah. No, that's an easy choice. I think that's the responsible thing for Mark to be doing now. It's not Jack almost to go and maybe request that leave. He'd never do that. It's not within his nature. It's not within any rugby player's nature. But I'd be expecting Mark and or at least some of his backroom staff to be approaching Jack to say, there's no pressure, there's no expectation.
Yeah.
It happens every Lion cycle, doesn't it? Somebody gets injured. Multiple people get injured. That's why we've got
the got a standby
reserve list. Exactly. Yeah. So and we don't want it to be him.
No, they have to find a way to stop him playing, even if it's turning to him and saying, "Look, Jack, you've been rubbish the last fortnight. Sorry, you dropped. You're not playing." They've got to find a way to stop him playing on Saturday, because the thought of him being the
protect him from himself.
Yeah, exactly. He is Wales's big hope for the Lions and could have a massive impact on that.
Don't know about you.
Put a big hit in on Jack in training this week. Give him a dead leg, nothing more. Just a dead leg.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about you two, but I don't trust Harry Deeves that much. I can't. I love him. I proper love him. He's a proper mush. However, it's not something that I would want to lay in his hands. If I was Derby, there's rumour of him being on the standby list. I would be, tempted to again give him a little run out, but not have him on for the full
It's
shabongi.
different for me though there because he's trying to prove himself now.
Give him
He's
that
got
like
to prove
60
his worth
minutes.
because I don't think it's the position in the Lions that they're most in need of those couple of extra spaces. I'd say back row and back three are probably a priority for them, based on the lack of specialists in those positions. They've got a couple of, they've got Daly floating around the back line, able to do job in multiple positions. Same goes for the back row. No bit of a lack of specialist eights. I think they look pretty secure at hookers. So I think you need to give Dewi the opportunity to go out and put his hand up and say, actually, no, I will bring value to the squad. I got something that those three haven't got, and I can throw my darts, which can't be said for the other three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then is Andy Farrell going to look at a match against a pretty average Lions team and go,
He'd be
yeah, I'm going to
stupid
pick that
not
player
to.
because of that? I think he's made his mind up, I would say, on that one. And I think they've got, Sam Parry's out there, Lewis Lloyd's out there. Again, I agree with you, Sam. I don't think he needs to play this game. I think if he plays right, I get your point about being in the shop window and everything else, but I don't think he needs to play. I think he's done
Yeah,
enough. If they are going to pick him for a backup list or whatever it is, I think they'll do that based on the big games that he's played this year already.
yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. He doesn't have anything to prove, does he? His qualities there to be seen. So, yeah.
But having said all that, it'd be nice if we do put a strong team out on Saturday to finish the season strongly as well. So, we don't want to be putting out a complete second string either, because we don't want to end the season with a hammering either. So, we don't want Mark Jones turn around and say, well, we brought all these lads to, South Africa with us on tour. We might as well give them a game. I think there'll be a bit more pride in the squad than that and in the whole, coaching group and everything else that they'll want to play a strong team to finish. So I would say, yeah,
Mm.
mothball Jack, mothball Dewi, and give everybody else one last run out because,
Yeah.
some might get picked for the Wales squad in the summer. Great if they do. But if Matt Sherratt's in charge, chances are they're not going to win the 50-50 calls on the Welsh selection either. So we might as well give them a
But
run out, make our season strong to finish.
use that
Yeah.
to our advantage, though, isn't
Yeah.
it? And I think, the Lions are there for the taking after the results with the Scarlets last weekend. I don't think very different proposition. I think they are there for the taking. I think there is a a W in the column there for us with that. But unless anybody's got anything else that they would like to throw into the mix, I suppose we could move on to the URC roundup of the weekend.
Just bring back a win, I think, boys. Let's finish off the season with a positive.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a bit of wildlife for Sam. Nothing dangerous, something cute and fluffy.
Right then, so going through the weekend, yeah, lots of very, very significant results over this weekend. So starting on Friday night, Munster 38, Ulster 20. So Munster moved themselves into the top eight with that bonus point win, and extinguish Ulster's hopes of making the top eight themselves as well. And now leads Munster into a bit of a shootout against Benetton on Saturday. Will be seventh against eighth. It's unlikely that they both make the playoffs because of teams below them potentially. So it could well be that whoever wins that, they got Edinburgh breathing down the neck, for example. So it could well be that the winner of that game makes the eight and the loser doesn't. So yeah, Munster have done their job. They've done what they needed to do. I think they'll be a dangerous team in the playoffs for anybody if they do get there. They're not as strong as they have been in previous years, but they've got plenty of quality there to cause problems for teams as well. But it was a solid home win and one that they needed to keep their season alive.
Dara was very, very delighted.
Yeah.
Very, very delighted. He's still not delighted enough to do a TikTok for me, but he's delighted.
Bulls 45, Cardiff 21. So the Bulls are peaking, I would say, at just the right time. They are looking pretty formidable at the moment. Another really strong, powerful performance for them. Put them into second place at Glasgow's expense, which we'll talk about in a minute. I think Cardiff may rue not being able to seal that bonus point with a fourth try. That could come back and haunt them at the end of the season. It takes them out of the playoffs now into ninth. with a really tough game to finish as well. Away at the Stormers on Friday, which we'll come to in a minute. But yeah, Cardiff have put themselves in a really tricky spot by not getting anything out of that game at all. But the Bulls going from strength to strength, and you have to say they're probably Leinster's main contenders now for the title, potentially, if they keep playing the way they are currently. Yeah, Benetton 33, Glasgow 7. I think it's one of those results, as there have been many this season, that nobody saw coming. Glasgow's still playing for a top two place, and they look like they've certainly blown that now. Which will, doesn't affect them in the first round of the playoffs. But when it comes to the semi-finals, it could have
Yeah.
an impact. Just didn't show up. It was really odd. Just really, really strange. Benetton are a dangerous team, and they showed that again on Friday, and really humbled them and puts Benetton in a really strong position now as well. They're up into seventh. As I say, they've got that shootout against Munster.
I was shocked watching that.
Yeah,
I was shocked. It
really surprising.
night and day.
Yeah,
night and day.
I stand by the fact that Glasgow's unraveling started with us.
Yeah.
It's been downhill for them since then, hasn't it?
It has actually, yeah.
Trying to cause murders in my house or what, yeah.
Okay, moving on. So Stormers 48, Dragons 12, another humbling for the Dragons. I mean, I don't know how many times we've said this season, but they were really competitive in the first half, as they've been so many times. They were only 2 scores down, I think, at the half. Stormers just started to play towards the end of the half and started to sort of ramp things up a little bit, and then the second half they ran away from the Dragons. And yeah, I mean, we said probably about 6 weeks ago the Dragons can't wait for the season to end. And yeah, finally for them the pain will be over next week. I think it's confirmed now that it's their worst URC season ever. So yeah, a long painful season for the Dragons, and yeah, again, they've got a horrific last game, haven't they, as well? Who they got is they're playing Bulls in the last game of the season.
And when you look at the support that they've got, they have got fantastic off-field support with season ticket holders on, Twitter, on Facebook. It's just a shame that they can't give those fans the beautiful rugby that level of support deserves. But they've made some signings.
I was going to say,
including a defence coach, obviously, Dale McLeod, which is a good appointment. They also seem to have made a couple of good player recruitments as well. Probably a bit more positive than us so far. So I think we've got some catching up to do. We're probably looking the most sluggish of the 4 regions at the moment in terms of what signings we've released, but hopefully they're to come. That's another story anyway.
Fingers crossed.
Still need a pack though, don't they, the Dragons? I mean, as much as they sign Samoan wingers or whatever who are going to be flying everywhere, if they haven't got a pack to actually, give
feed the ball from,
then yeah. So interesting signing. Been interesting to see if they can beef up that pack, because they haven't got a platform at the moment at all to work from.
I've heard they're starting a cloning program for Dimitri Arhip, and he's going to play both sides of the scrum and be on the bench.
Yeah, that could just work. Leinster 76, Zebra 5. So Leinster, Zebra with the whipping boys, and Leinster took out their semi-final defeat against Northampton on poor Zebra. Went almost a point a minute, and yeah, they just looked like an angry team who'd wrecked their season the weekend before. I mean, Zebra, to be fair, haven't been on the end of too many hammerings this year, which is a credit to them. They couldn't live with Leinster on the weekend, but Zebra's season will still be seen, I think, as a really positive one as a whole. They were still pushing around the playoffs up until about 4 weeks ago. They've dropped off a little bit now at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But Leinster now will be absolutely all out to win the URC now that they're out of Europe. They have no other focus, and I think they will be very, very difficult to beat now from now until the end of the season.
Yeah.
Connacht 21, Edinburgh 31. Another vital win for Edinburgh. They keep on clinging on with hope of that last playoff place. And I think with Benetton and Munster playing each other on Saturday, it gives an opportunity for Edinburgh just to sneak into that last top 8 place. Bonus point was really important with them on Friday as well. That's given them that extra little point to bring them that little bit closer again. and ended Connacht's season, which to be fair had been over for a few weeks anyway. But yeah, Edinburgh again, they're going to be a dangerous team to meet in those playoffs. They've got, a decent squad. They've probably underperformed a little bit over the course of the season. However, they play some good rugby. They've got a good platform up front as well, and some talented players in that squad as well.
Certainly be an interesting one next week. Them against Ulster, 10th versus 12th.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And then finally,
and that's it, isn't it? There's
uh,
no other results with
I
it.
don't think there was. I've got something right at the bottom of the page about the Lions and somebody, but I can't quite read my writing. But oh, we better had to give them their due, when we Lions 19, Scarlets 32. To be fair, an excellent performance by the Scarlets against a Lions team who have really disappointedly petered out. I think I've been bigging them up for the last 6 weeks. They've got 4 home games to finish the season. They're going to be making this charge for the playoffs, and they've absolutely gone out with a whimper. But to be fair to the Scarlets, they did the job they needed to do. Bonus point win, which lifts them up to sixth and really does put them in a strong position now. Again, Benetton and Munster playing each other plays into the Scarlets' hands a little bit because there's one less team to overtake them. So yeah, the Scarlets have really put themselves in the box seat now, I think, in terms of the playoffs, even though that they've got the Sharks away in this last game of the season. I think even if they take nothing from that game, they will still potentially make the playoffs as well because of other results. So like you said, Rod, looking at the fixtures, there aren't many games that have nothing riding on them really this weekend. Stormers in fifth against Cardiff in ninth. I would say WR United have probably blown their chances now, possibly. For all the there's been so much crowing as there over the season about Cardiff for fourth, Cardiff for fifth, Cardiff for sixth, and they've just kind of slid. And at the business end of the season, they just can't get the job done. And I would be amazed if they get anything at the Stormers on the weekend as well. But a bit like us last weekend, they got nothing to lose. They might as well go out and play, give it a good go, and see what happens. But I think Cardiff might just miss out potentially. Edinburgh 10th against Ulster 12th. I mean, Ulster are out of the running like ourselves, but for Edinburgh, that's a must-win five-pointer really for them. Bull second against Dragons 16th is a no is a nothing game. Bulls, you would imagine, would rest quite a few players for that one. Lions against us, unfortunately, is a dead rubber as well, as is Zebra Connacht. And then at the bottom of that list, you got Sharks in fourth against our Scarlets in sixth. I could see the Scarlets picking up a bonus point there potentially. They're an attractive enough team and play some decent enough rugby, I think, to give the Sharks some problems like we did. The difference maybe at the moment with the Scarlets is that they're executing their chances a bit better than we are. And I can see them getting something out of that.
Hey, it's even winnable. I'd go far as saying that. If they played like they did last weekend, to give them full credit, it's a winnable game, especially if Hollywood, the Sharks are looking one game ahead at the knockouts. They may even rest a few players for this game, allowing Scarlets just to cling on there.
It's whether the Sharks care whether they come fourth or third. It doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't make any difference to them, does it really?
No, so they're probably going to be looking one game ahead, or at least have one eye on it. But it's amazing how quickly the Scarlets have turned around their season. A couple of months ago, they were looking woeful, weren't they? Yeah. Absolutely woeful for the vast majority of the season. And I don't know how they've done this. It's really annoying.
I suppose what Scarlets fans would say, though, as well, is that they had that run at the beginning of the season of 6 or 7 games where they missed out on wins, missed out on bonus points, so they could potentially be
higher,
7, 8, 9, 10 points ahead of where they are.
But they also sort of did what Cardiff did last year. Yeah. Sorry, Mark. Sorry.
I said they could be pushing up a third or fourth potentially if they've taken their chances. But then any team can argue that. We can say if we beat the Dragons, if we didn't draw against Cardiff on New Year's Day, and if we got something out of whatever other game, then every team can point at the what ifs, can't they? So
yes, but that's probably been the difference between us this year and Scarlets this year, or Cardiff last year, is that we either win or lose, don't we? We don't tend to lose by a close margin and get a load of bonus points. We lose by, with a relatively disappointing performance and 2 or 3 tries separating us. Tends to be how it goes, or we win spectacularly. So that's, probably somewhere that we can tighten up, isn't it? Is just clinging on in games that we're going to lose.
I think potentially the only way the Scarlets, well, I can't see how the Scarlets miss out, to be honest, because even if, let's say, Edinburgh win with a bonus point, they go to 49. Thinking about if the Scarlets get nothing out of that game at all, Edinburgh go to 49. Munster and Benetton, both below the Scarlets, play each other. Even if they draw the game and both get an extra bonus point for tries, Scarlets have a better points difference than both of those teams as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So really, Cardiff are the only team I think that can probably eliminate the Scarlets from that. If they can pull off a win, then they can potentially jump back in. So I think if Cardiff don't win on Friday night against the Stormers, then the Scarlets are sitting pretty, to be honest.
Yeah.
Regardless of what they do on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, as you said, grates me to the core. And
But
very petty about that, but I would love it. And I said this last week, I think, on the pod rod as well, when you weren't here. I don't want Cardiff or the Scarlets to make the playoffs because we haven't made the playoffs. And I don't care what other people think of that.
You've turned petty.
I don't want either of them to make it. Now, I would rather Benetton, Munster, and Edinburgh make the playoffs than either the Scarlets or Cardiff. So there we are.
We just got to cling on to our run in Europe this year. It just already feels like half a season ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, but I do think we're building, and if we take this as a builder season with a new coach, I think we've got loads to look forward to next season. With players bedding in.
I have heard a lot of debate this week about the timing of the Mark Jones appointment, and lots of people reflecting back on that as to whether it was handled correctly or done at the right time. But I almost don't think there's any value in looking back. It's in the past.
It is what it is.
Things happened the way that it did. That's sort of sport. Nobody ever tends to really leave on their own terms, whether you're a player or a coach. And that's how things worked out. And I think we made a real good crack of what could have been a messier situation at the time. So positive.
Wheels could have come off totally.
Yeah,
it could have come off totally, and it didn't.
And at least this way, Mark's had half a season of working with these players already, coupled with a full pre-season. That'll be best part of a year. Then he's been working with these players by the time next season starts.
And this was seen what can happen.
Yeah.
This was the pre-season. He's just had a really, really long pre-season.
Yeah.
That's gonna mean that we win Europe and the league next year.
Yeah.
You hear it here first.
All right then. We're gonna Lyon, are we? You've still not watched Lower Low, and you still need to watch Lower Low. But a bit of a news week last week with lots of things going on. Now, I was able to watch the Lion Squad announcement live. Unfortunately for Jack was on a plane that was delayed. He should have landed. I did love the plane reaction with him just sitting there and everybody going, "Go on, Jackie boy." Loved that. Thought that was amazing. Just loved how he just shoved his head down and didn't really sort of thing. There were obviously people on that flight who did not have any idea who they were, because they were like, what's going on? I did think that when they spoke to Thomas, that it was lovely. His video, he was blatantly crying.
Yeah.
I love that.
The reaction videos have been lovely, and they're like the Northampton boys all sitting in a room watching it together, and
Ellis Genge going home to his kids dressed as lions and saying, "Well, this could have been awkward." I thought that was quite funny.
And how Mac Hansen was his interview in that announcement, just standing in a field in his dungarees.
It was supposed to have been Bundy, but he's looking after his kids. That tickled me. And you just know he was gobsmacked with regards to that. So I did love seeing that. Loved the fact that they brought out Alan Wynne and had him there. He did kind of look as though he was sitting on a nursery chair because his knees were up here in comparison. like Andy Farrell's a big man, but like Alan Wynne-Jones was even taller than him. Were some omissions or things that were talked about with people being missed, but we've heard more now about the rumoured standby list for Wales. The rumours are that Dewi is on there, Taulupe Faletau and Blair Murray of Scarlets. Facts are facts. They're all likely to be going on the Japan tour. The reality is they're really close to Australia. So if anything were to happen, touch wood that it, I don't wish anybody, harm for them to come in, but they're pretty close. Feel gutted for Caelan Doris. Obviously, his shoulder injury, he's looking like he's going to be out for about 6 months, which is a gutter.
Yeah.
Absolute gutter for him. But overall, I think it's quite a strong squad that's been picked. Like the Lions coaches that have gone before, he's probably stuck to what he knows by picking a lot of Irish and Leinster players. So I haven't got my arse in my hands over that a bit too much, because to be fair, every Lions coach kind of does that. And Ireland, the players that they
that
pick,
always happens.
That. Yeah. It happens. It is what it is. It is what it is.
I think I'd say was probably the biggest omission for me. I think he was the name that jumped out to me, especially when we saw Mac Hansen and Elliot Daly in the squad. And I know Elliot Daly we talked about last week, and the the options that he gives you across the backline. Yeah. That's why he's there. But Mac Hansen hasn't had a great season either internationally. No. Injured a lot as well. And Darcy Graham's been on fire recently. So I think that was the one surprise for me. But
we know he's just there for the banter. That's the only thing he's there for.
Exactly. You'll be entertainment manager, won't you? And then when we watch the post-tour video with all the
on tour with the Lions,
we will be delighted that Mac Hansen was there, because he'll be the entertainment, won't he?
So. Exactly. I am expecting some sort of wacky haircut that he's going to be starting to grow out, now. Yeah. He's going to be planning this far in advance.
By then.
Yeah.
Obviously, Henry Pollock is the youngest. He's going to be carrying Bill around.
Yes, carrying the bear, the thing around. I was just going to say, least controversial. Not the bear, the lion. the teddy bear lion. the plush lion. What I was trying to say is least controversial lion selection for me in a long time. Like, you've got those omissions here or there, but I haven't heard a lot of debate around them. I know people acknowledge and saying, they can be aggrieved, blah, blah, blah. But nobody's saying, as passionately as you may have had 3-4 years ago in the last tour, people, dying on their hell of this player should be there, this one shouldn't. Haven't you heard much of that? It seems pretty predictable.
I worked out that me and Mark were about 85% spot on with who we picked. Yeah.
I think
which goes to show.
I think he's sorry. Go on, Sam. I keep on interrupting you. Sorry, go on.
Right, don't worry. It just goes to show, though, how much of it's not been an open forum, because as we were running through it last week, we were pretty much picking the same people, and I was kind of ticking our list off as we were going through, and we were about 85-86% in tune with Farrell.
It's interesting he left those little positions. He sort of openly said that there are maybe 2-3 spots available for some injured players or players coming in last minute. Which you consider possibly someone like Owen Farrell coming in. His name keeps on being bandied around in terms of one of those final spots. So not only will players join this tour because of injury and whatever else, but some are likely to join before the tour even starts. With those extra spots. And also that first game before we go to Australia against Argentina is only a week after the URC final. It's a week before the French top 14 final. It's a week after the English Premiership final. So any players involved in any of those finals are not going to be involved on that Friday night match in Dublin. So I was listening to a podcast on the way home today, thinking about hooker, for example. All 3 hookers could be involved in those finals potentially. So they're all of a sudden then having to draft in 2 hookers from nowhere in the squad even at the moment to play against Argentina, and they will be fully fledged Lions. But then what do they do with them? Do they keep them in the squad? Do they just say, "Go
Yeah,
on, you go then, you've done your bit. You're not coming to Australia with us." So I think that game against Argentina could be an absolute hodgepodge of players that have made the squad and potentially players that are just drafted in to play that one game.
jigsaw din.
Yeah.
Um, I had to explain to someone the other day why the why the lion is called Bill.
You
Why?
can explain it to Rod now.
British Irish lion. Bill, B-I-L. British
Oh,
Irish
okay.
lion.
So
Oh
do they
my
spell it with one
God.
L? Do they spell it with
B-I-L.
one L?
One L. Yeah, he's Bill.
Oh, okay.
B-I-L.
I
Yeah,
thought you were going
so
to say after Bill Beaumont or something.
No.
I think Rod's had
Bill
a
the
bit of a
bear.
moment in this
Oh,
section, isn't he? Yeah, the bear and
um,
the
I love that. I'm going on tour with the bears, love. Um, but I'm very much looking forward to it. I do love like a morning midweek game when I'm you know, working from home. Um, and I do love those games. And I do think that, you know, there are people that can go on tour who you aren't even considering at this point in time being a starter, who can very much play themselves in into
Mm.
contention. It's all up for grabs.
And
It really is.
I could see Jack captain in one of those early games or those midweek games. Obviously because of his, he'll have been relatively well rested, as will any other players playing in Wales. Well, it's actually only him, isn't it? Because obviously Thomas is over in the Prem. But no,
Rod's
it'd
unlikely to
be
make the
set him
playoffs as
up.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, could set him up for that, couldn't it? Well rested, obviously a good leader, in the mold of what we know Andy Farrell likes, a bit of a silent, steely leader type, not somebody too bullshy. So yeah, and I think he looks favourably upon Jack. So we
Yeah.
might see an early
And
outing there.
I think as Khaleesi said, he's a warrior. He is
Yeah.
a warrior. He leaves, like I'm not saying in comparison to anybody else, but you know that boy leaves nothing, nothing in the locker. Um, one thing, I told you, mate, what's with the pearly earring? I, I, you're not Captain Jack Sparrow, mate. It's not working for me, babes.
It's fashion, Sam. All the kids are doing it.
Are they? Are
Yeah, you
they?
can't see it under here.
Am I going to see?
I've got about 6 on each ear.
Have you?
And
Okay,
like a
that's lovely.
chandelier.
Okay, see ya. Let's calm down. Um,
Is it just me, and am I being really unkind here? But did Ian Evans come across as being really smug?
he's a twat.
I watched it and he just annoyed me the whole time. I don't know why, because I mean I loved him as a
Um,
player. I thought he was a great player for Wales, but the more and more I see him in those kind of situations, he just really annoyed me.
It's just all the pomp and the pageantry. That annoys me anyway. I think he's just the unfortunate face of it all.
Yeah,
um,
maybe it's that I don't know, but he just just every time he opened his mouth or appeared on screen, I just wanted to throw something. It was just really.
yeah, no, he's not for me. Not my cup of tea. Um, yeah, I thought he could have done better with the names, if I'm being honest. Um,
Oh
because his
God, yeah, some of them were
pronunciation was
awful.
awful.
As if
Um,
he'd never practiced reading some of them, but also as if he doesn't watch rugby and has never
I know.
heard them
How do you not know
spoken
who these
before. I
are?
can't comprehend. He was getting some of the easy ones wrong.
I know.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
nerves,
that
maybe.
annoyed me.
I don't
Um,
know.
Sorry,
did
I'm
think it
sure he's a
was
very nice guy, but he just annoyed me. So
I did think it was a nice thing to do to have that live in the
Yeah.
O2, and I did like some of it. Um, but yeah, I just think it could have been a bit quicker. You know, you had to wait for half an hour through all the nonsense before people started
yeah.
getting announced. Um, I did like them speaking to people live. I thought that was great. So very much looking forward to the Lions tour. Hopefully, you know, those three players that we've discussed to perhaps put themselves on a reserve list. But in other rugby news,
So predictions before we move on for the Lions,
I
Tom?
2. I don't think there's
2-1?
going to be a wipeout, but I think it's going to be 2-1.
See, I think it could be. I think we might see 3-0. And I don't
Do you
think that's a
reckon?
reflection on Australia. I think that's a reflection on Andy Farrell and the game plan that he'll play with these players. I think it'll just be naturally years ahead of where Australia
Australia
are in
currently
their
are.
rebuild. They're going to be playing a brand of rugby that I think is just going to be a step above Australia, and it'll be competitive, but I think they'll win 3-0.
Okay, so Rod is 3-0. I've gone for 2-1. Mark?
Yeah, I thought about this quite a bit last week since the squad's been announced. I worry if Farrell goes too island centric in the test team, the island squad, the island team haven't been on form recently. Okay, the Leinster players are playing well, and there's a lot of Leinster players in that squad. But as a nation, they had a disappointing Six Nations. And my worry is if they go too island centric on this, then I'd worry that we may lose the series 2-1 potentially. But I think, like we've said already, there'll be some players from other nations that will make themselves too indispensable to not be picked as that
Yeah.
tour goes on. And I would hope that Farrell would have a bit more of a balanced squad and not just go with the players that he knows
Yeah.
that are not on form potentially. And I think if he can do that and get that team gelled together, then I'd go for a 2-1 Lions series
And
win.
I think it makes it difficult to do your homework on a squad that's not made up particularly of all Leinster or Irish players.
Hmm.
I can kind of see the squad that he's gone because he's picked it for the style of play that he wants to play. So I understand that, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Now I've noted that down of what we've just said. If people want to get in their predictions, then I will arrange a Sam's Brucey bonus. So whoever gets the prediction right, I'll put them on a little spinny wheel thing and I'll arrange a giveaway.
Do I get
I mean,
two that time? Because I sat on the fence then, didn't I? I went two different
Do you know
predictions.
what you get for sitting on the fence?
Nothing.
Splinters in your ass. That's what you get for sitting on the fence, as my mum would say.
we surely then because there's only 3 options. It's 1 game, 2 game, 3 games to make it a bit more complex. Do we want people to say the order, like loss,
Yeah.
win, loss, win, loss, win? Yeah, in
Yeah.
what order? Because I think that's, you can predict that. I think if we do lose one, it'll be the first one, and then
Yeah.
they'll write themselves for the second 2, for
Okay.
example, even though I'm going for all 3 wins.
I've gone for win, loss, win, I have.
Win, loss, win. Okay.
I'll
It
go.
depends where they're
So
playing as well, obviously, isn't it? They've got, higher successes in particular stadia
I can tell you
over
where it
others.
is. Got it in my diary, but I can't reach my diary from here.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
get
I
your
would say that
predictions
first
in.
test is the one we're least likely, or the one we're most likely to lose, as you say, the first test.
Yeah.
Especially if selection is a little bit safe in that one as well. So I would say loss, win, win.
Because was I
Right.
reading something as well that Australia have opened up their selection or changed their selection rules for the
Yeah.
Lions so that they can now select their overseas players that they couldn't beforehand. So that could be a game changer as well, actually, that
Yeah.
I'm not considering.
Have they actually confirmed that today? Because I know they were considering it earlier in the day, but I don't know if it's been confirmed yet.
Was it a consideration, was it? Okay.
That's the last
Don't
I'd
know.
heard that they were considering, but I don't know whether it has been made official or not.
Well, it'd be a smart move from them, isn't it? Even if
Oh, it
they
really
just
would,
do it
yeah.
on a temporary basis,
Yeah.
because, instantly they'd be able to claim back 6, 7, 8 overseas players playing in Japan and, playing Moana Pacifica, that sort of thing, pull them into the team. Yeah.
To watch this space, we'll come up with a competition. And as I say, we'll be doing some Lion specials anyway.
There we go. You
And
can move us on now, Sam, without interruption. I do apologize.
I just want to see you in real life. No, I want not really. I'm non-violent lately, I am. Lots going on last week with the PRA. Mark and I briefly spoke about this because the deadline had been issued for Thursday and we were recording on the Wednesday. So we weren't too clear at that point in time what was going on. It then transpired that Cardiff, surprise, surprise, and Dragons signed. Ospreys and Scarlets refused to sign. So, off the back of that, in a move that surprised me, if I'm being honest, Ospreys and Scarlets collaborated on a statement and a response to the WRU, basically saying, and I'm paraphrasing this, in saying that they had concerns with regards to the PRA. As two independent professional clubs, Ospreys and Scarlets had a long-standing commitment to sustaining Welsh rugby in Wales, and they remain committed to finding a solution. However, they've asked the WRU for assurances and clarity that their ownership of Cardiff will not disproportionately benefit Cardiff and disadvantage the independent clubs. The requests are made in pursuit of clarity, professionalism, fairness, and the long-term sustainability and future of all professional teams in Wales. They are in committed discussions with the WRU and hope to have a positive outcome in the future, but at the moment, we're not able to sign the PRA 25. We are working with the WRU to find solutions to support the game across our country and ensuring a level playing field for all. We fully respect Cardiff and Dragons' position and making a decision on their respective circumstances. And what I loved was the mic drop at the end, which is saying this is a season-defining weekend in the BTK United Championship, and out of respect for those games, we won't be commenting further. I think you can read between the lines there, really, that what they're looking for is that all of the clubs are treated fairly, all of the clubs get an equal share of the pie, and that there isn't going to be some sort of treating Cardiff as the super club Leinster of Wales. Personally, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I, as a lawyer, would not advise anyone to sign anything that is not copper bottomed out, that is not fully agreed, that you don't know the exact terms to what you're signing, and you don't know the exact terms of what you're getting. All four clubs need to be on an even footing. All four clubs need to be clear of what each of the other is getting, the support that they're getting, and what the outcome is going to be. Mark and I, we said last week, this is really disappointing that this deadline has been issued when 2-3 weeks ago, Dave Redden and Abby Tierney sat on the Scrum5 podcast and clearly said there would be no deadlines. There wasn't an effect on the funding. There wasn't a deadline issued on them by the banks, etc., or anything else. 2 weeks later, they issue a deadline. Communication and transparency is not that difficult. And for the WRU, if you have known that there's an issue with Cardiff for as long as 6 months, which you've indicated you knew, why didn't you have a contingency plan in your back pocket knowing, okay, we've got assurances that these people are going to meet this money or whatever, but what happens if they don't? How does this affect the PRA? Because, the regions like Dragons, Scarlets and Cardiff, Dragons, Scarlets and Ospreys are saying, we did kind of have an inclination of what was going on with Cardiff, but we were repeatedly assured that it was in hand, it wouldn't get to a Welsh Rugby Union buyout. Well, guess what, chaps, it has. Once again, what planning have you put in place? Surely that should have been discussed in the interests of transparency.
From a layperson's perspective, what baffles me about this is that they constantly have this tone of expecting goodwill from the regions when they just haven't operated in a way that merits receiving that. They're like, oh yeah, we're vague on that, but just trust us on this. We'll do this, we'll do that.
No.
But like given absolutely no, they've not fostered that trust and that understanding that they've got best interests at heart. So that's what really baffles me about this is just the constant lack of transparency and expecting people just to roll along with it.
It's like trusting Myra Hindley with your kids. You're not going to frigging do it, are you? It's like, no.
Yeah.
It's just what baffled me was the sort of congratulatory tone of the statement the WRU made about Cardiff and the Dragons signing the
Of course they bloody signed.
Well, they were congratulating themselves on signing their own document because they're in charge of Cardiff. So they drafted it and just signed it themselves. So I don't know what's so special about that. I've got no idea. I'm just bored of this now. I'm absolutely bored.
Yeah, me too.
It's
me
just
too.
like,
I think we shouldn't discuss it again until actual things are agreed, because we're just talking about things not being agreed.
It's just stupid.
It's not news.
It's not
news.
Last
Thursday, the UK and the US managed to come up with a trade agreement between them. The Catholic Church managed to appoint a new pope, and the Welsh Rugby Union couldn't bring 4 teams together to sign a piece of paper.
Well,
it's just
we were messaging back and forth last week with me, and I said on Thursday, oh my God, what a day to be alive. The Lion squad is announced. We've got a new pope, and me and Mark have got a new job. So it was like, what a day to be alive. And then this shit show of the PRA happened. So it was like, oh yeah, okay, maybe not.
Like you said, Rod, it's not worth our breath and our listeners' time listening to us prattling on, because it's the same thing every week. It's the same news. It's the same old crap. And it's just, I can't see how it's going to be resolved, to be honest. I mean, I know Lance has said that, there's chance they will be sooner rather than later. But, if the unions keep on moving the goalposts all the time, then they're not going to sign it.
Just
And
bear with, innit?
yeah, like you said, just wait and see how it pans, I think.
And the other interesting thing that caught my eye, literally just before we came on air, was the possibility in 2030 of Six Nation games being played in America.
No.
I'm not being funny. I've been to New York in January and February. It's bastard freezing.
It hasn't got that global appeal. They're trying to follow things like the NFL, and they bring in international series games. They've just announced now is in 9 international series games across South America and Europe for the autumn. But that's a global game. It's the biggest game in the States by a country mile, and it's got a hold in many, many countries across the world. Football could get away with it, with playing, Champions League games or whatever across different continents. But outside of the traditional rugby strongholds, and America certainly isn't one of those, there's just not the appeal to do that. And all it's doing is just taking the game away from the fans who've fed the game for so long and who actually value the Six Nations.
I'm sure it would be a success. That first year, I'm sure they'd fill every stadium, and on paper it would be a financial success. But
do you think they would, though? Do you think like an Italy-Wales game played in New York would fill a stadium?
I think they would in that first year, just because they'd market it to the moon and back, and
we can't fill an Italy international in our own bloody stadium, let alone taking it to America, can we?
I don't know. I'd be up for a little away trip, mind, I'm not gonna lie. I'd be up for a little away trip.
And you know what Americans are like when clinging to their sort of ancestral roots, and like 20 generations removed, they go, "I'm Irish." I'm sure
the Irish games would be a massive draw when there's like Ireland have played the All Blacks out there a couple of times in Chicago.
I'm Irish American,
and there's big Welsh populations out there as well. We just don't hear about them as much.
Yeah.
There are certain cities that have got that Welsh heritage to them, that were founded by colonizing Welsh people, but. I think it would do good, looking at that sort of year as a complete package. But I don't think you can overlook the sort of the year-on-year consequences of doing something like that. You're not engaging fans who are then going to come back in year 2 when you play it in Europe again. They're not going to fly across the Atlantic to watch that. It's not going to happen. It just seems pointless, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not achieving anything. It's not growing the sport. It's just. I don't know. I can't fathom the purpose. Why would you do it?
It's not the Six Nations is any old competition either, is it? It's the
biggest competition worldwide.
Yeah, exactly. So
they're not going to have that connection, that heritage within the competition. That
no.
Like they'll get excited, but it's not that same connection and the feeling that we would get as
the investment
participating nations.
Yeah. If you ever get a chance, go on TikTok and watch Americans reacting to rugby. It's funny. They're like, oh my God, that's not safe. Oh my God, at least he's got a hat on. Oh my God, do they want to die? Right, calm down. It's just a little bit of, something. That does actually make me laugh. But has anybody else got any news that they can think of?
I think let's just bash the WRU a little bit more. And the Bristol Bath game at the stadium looked pretty immense on Saturday. Was
Did
it
look good.
51,000 there? Completely put into the shade the 29,000 whatever
Judgment
the
Day.
four regions could pull together for Judgment Day. Looked like it had been properly marketed. Decent game of rugby on the pitch as well. They're doing
Good
it again
halftime
next year.
act.
Yeah, they're going to do it again next year. And yeah, on that same day, I think Harlequins played in Twickenham, didn't they, and pulled 40, 50 odd thousand into Twickenham as well. So it just shows how far behind we are, I think, the Premiership in terms of marketing and getting fans onto.
Invested.
Yeah.
I don't think the marketing's particularly bad. I think people are just so pissed off at the WRU.
Yeah,
But until they see change, they're just not invested in them as an organization.
Yeah.
They still support the team, but they just don't want to give their money. I
You've
don't
got
want
to
to give
get
them.
that trust back.
Yeah.
You've got to get
Yeah,
that trust
until I
back.
see change, like I used to wear that badge with pride. I almost look at it as a symbol of shame now. The sort of fleur-de-lis. Are you guys the same, or am I being
Yeah.
like, or am
Yeah,
I
to an extent, I
overreacting?
think. Yeah.
I
I
look
think it
at
was
it
just
and I'm
sad
like,
to see our stadium full of English people
Having
enjoying
a good day out.
rugby and
having
having
a
a really
better
good
time than
time.
we had.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just think we just need to get the people back. We just need we need to remember it is a working class game in Wales, and we need to get people back. We need to get people invested again. But it'll happen. I'm confident it will happen. But I think the WIU need to realise that there's a way to go for them to get that trust back. You've got to win it back. It's not going to be given freely. People don't trust you at this point in time.
In a sense, they're creating in a small subset of the Welsh rugby populace more devoted regional fans, because I would say over the last 2 years, I am now, for the first time in my life, probably more of an Ospreys fan than a Welsh rugby fan, whereas in the past it's been the opposite. It's always been Welsh rugby first, and then I followed the Ospreys as well. That's flipped on its head now. I'm more invested. I'm more passionate. I'm more, I follow more closely regional rugby than I do the Welsh game. Yeah.
I'm about equal, but then
Yeah.
I'm all about the jollies going away, and I love a little bit of an outing. But that is sort of it for this week. But we've got the rando. Now, I've been having quite a laugh on TikTok this week because it started with the whole 100 men via gorilla fight thing, which is just bonkers. Why?
Just taking over the internet, isn't it, the last week?
Gorillas are going to take your arm off, let's face it.
Yes. Everywhere I look, Mark, it's bloody
It's 100
gorillas.
Is this actually a real thing? Is there actually
No.
It's not a real thing, but people hypothetical.
I think so. It started, just for an explainer for anybody else who's listening.
This is where
like
Grandad shows his age now, isn't it? Yeah.
there was a simulator where somebody pitched something like 1,000 gorillas against 100,000 men in quote unquote realistic scenarios with a different strength quantified and accounted for, blah blah blah, and these gorillas just annihilated 100,000 men, just killed them all.
Right.
So the whole internet
that was the thing.
That, like, how many men versus how many gorillas.
Somebody's clearly got too much time on their hands, haven't they?
I know.
But I'm here for it. Like, I am literally here for it. But it's evolved now into 100 Americans versus 100 Brits. And the Americans obviously being super, super, super confident. are like, yeah, no problem. We've got people from Texas and Alabama and Florida. And the more I'm watching, the more I'm like, I think 100 Brits could do you, because I ain't being funny. I've been outside the job centre and the Wetherspoons in Neath on payday. They're feral. They are mental.
Yeah,
So
they've got guns, but we got tanned up Valley boys.
exactly, we've got a Valley Commando coming down on the ride, proper ride rage, like, do you know what I mean? And can you imagine a group of Welsh mams against 100 Americans? I'll give you something to cry for now. We're crying for. Like my mother'd only have to flare her left nostril and they'd go running. Do you know what I mean? So where do you stand in this 100 Brits versus 100 Americans? Because I think the Americans are cocky shits, but they don't realise that, like, British people we're not all tea drinking, Harry Potter loving, made in Chelsea nerds. Like, do you know what I mean? Some of us, got a bit of taste about us. Like, get them out of Belmarsh for the day or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you need different units, don't you? You need like
Yeah.
your initial force of like tangoed Valley boys running in as the infantry. Then you need your fox hunting toffs on horseback coming in behind, and I don't know.
To finish it off, then your Welsh maps. But there was one guy on there who did really make me laugh, and he said, "We could just ruin you with words." And I'm like, what? And he went, "We'll just drop the C-bomb. You'll all be horrified. You'll all run away in shock." And I was, yeah, do it. Because they just like can't cope with that.
Can I highlight a trend here though, Sam? Your rando questions are increasingly sort of starting. They have their inception in TikTok.
It's the zeitgeist, mate.
You're getting influenced.
You're leaving me behind though, Sam. That's the problem, because
It's why I want a Labubu rod, which my friend has got me in Vegas.
Here's a question for you then. On that man versus gorilla theme. What's the biggest animal that you could be confident that you would win a fight against 100 of them? If that made any kind of sense.
God.
Cockroach.
Ant. And I struggle against them because they're sneaky little buggers.
Spiky little buggers.
I think you could go bigger than that. Do you think you could take 1,000 hamsters, Mark? 1,000
I don't know. I definitely wouldn't take on 100 rabbits because the one rabbit we've got is pretty brutal. And
they can be vicious rabbits.
I wouldn't take
I've
on 100
seen Watership Down. I'm not trying that.
Smaller than rabbits. What about frogs? Maybe?
Yeah, they haven't got much bite to frog, is there? I don't know how they deal that fatal blow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not the sort of poisonous variety, maybe, but a frog I could maybe 100 frogs. I don't know. Fish.
It's got to be something you can stand on or swat away, really, isn't it?
Yeah, something that's below knee height, so you can swat them away and they don't just sort of like get on top of you and climb over you.
Or 100 cod.
God.
I don't know. Are you in their environment or are they in your?
No, I just think with a paddling pool in the garden and just
with a spear.
It'll be like that scene from The Inbetweeners with one of them like punching the fish to death in the boat after panicking because they don't know how to dispatch it.
I think I've just seen what Geraint's next AI is going to be.
Can you imagine? Sam killing chinchillas.
I listened to this other podcast.
Though, we're going to have to change your name to Rodaroo. Because me and Mark are obviously lions and you're a kangaroo, so you're Rodaroo from now on. I'm thinking of changing you to that in my phone.
Rodaroo or Kangaroo? I think
no, Rodaroo. I like Rodaroo.
Rodaroo, okay.
I do like Rodaroo, but that was the rando that did kind of make me laugh this week was 100 Brits, like literally just you Welsh mam or gangster grands, like they don't give a shit, mate. They don't care. Like you're done for. But that is us for this week. Now we've had some nice little chats on our community this week. Keep that up. Anybody wants to join, we'll repost the links and everything else. We'll talk about the fine print of our Lions competition. if anybody is interested in coming on and having a chat with one of us over the summer about your love of rugby, how you came to be an Ospreys fan, so that we can keep things ticking, please let us know. We'd love to have you on and have a chat with you. Listen, I know I'm your favourite. Whoever's watching, I know you're all going to want to be interviewed by me. But give the boys a chance as well, right? You know, they're lovely, really. Just not as random as me. Not everybody can be. Actually, I got ADHD. Those two are all right. You know, it could take a very Wang Chung turn if we're having a chat with me. But
I'm the same, Sam, but a lot of mine doesn't make it out my mouth. It's going on in here. It's crazy in here.
See, I haven't quite mastered.
I got more of a filter.
I got none. No filter at all whatsoever. None.
And if it's me, we'll just have a quiet cup of tea and a chat. Be all right.
Love a cup of tea and a chat. Do you know what I mean? Biscuits though. Will you have biscuits?
Oh, yeah. Hobnobs maybe.
I got malted milk on my desk.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a couple with a cuppa this morning. Made the mistake of feeding them to the dog with coffee on, so she turned mental about an hour later. Happy days. But that is us for this week. We look forward to the game on the weekend. We'll be back next week. Have a wonderful week, everyone. We'll be all over our socials. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. And I just like to leave a lasting message to our friend Nick, who's out in South Africa. Stop sending me pictures, mate, of your safaris, making me jealous. I had pictures of giraffes this morning. It looked lovely, but I'm slightly gel because thunder and lightning, yeah. But have a wonderful time, Nick. Don't get eaten by lions. And that is us. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Take care.